Saturday, June 25, 2016. This is Mercedes Diesel Guy, and this is my 1983 Mercedes 240 diesel. Today I'm going to be replacing the heater blower motor under the dashboard. Okay, as I said, today I'm going to be replacing the heater blower motor. It has been noisy. I really haven't had to use it in the spring and summer, but going into the winter when I really needed heat, like I said, the motor was getting noisy, and it really only seems to be working on low speed at this point, which I'm pretty sure is a problem with the motor being worn out, and not with the wiring, not with a like a relay or resistor. I could be wrong, but did some research, and the blower motor for this car is not exactly easy to come by. I think that the original is not even made anymore. So I started looking at my options. I could try to find a used one, but I'd have to look on eBay or online forums. And even then, you don't know exactly what you're getting. Even a used one is going to be 30 years old. Did a little research, and I found another possible option. The blower motor from a Volvo 850 supposedly is compatible with a little bit of modification. So I went to the junkyard this morning and I pulled this here out of a Volvo 850, and I'm going to pull the one here in the Mercedes out of the dashboard, and I'll show you them, side by side for comparison. I did test this, by the way. You can see I just snipped off the wires here and just powered this directly off a battery. The fan came on nice and strong instantly, and it was running quiet. So this is in good condition for now. I only paid about $20 for it, so no big loss if it doesn't last a long time, but I think it will. I'm looking for a Volvo part number on here. Really hard to say what's a part number or not, but I think it might be Volvo 6820812. So, like I said, I'm going to get the one here out of the Mercedes dashboard, and I'll show you them side by side. Okay, the first thing that's got to happen is that this lower dash panel has to come out. Now, this is an 83, but I have a whole bunch of earlier parts in this car. This is 79 dash, 79 lower dash panels. In my case, this is just clipped in place, and then there's a, right here along the passenger side wall, there is a plug that has to be pulled out. This all should be fairly obvious. In the later 123s, there is a screw cover, I think 3 of them, and you have to pull those covers and then remove 3 Phillips head screws. So, anyhow, I'm just going to pull this out of here now. Next, all you have to do is remove the blower motor. Give me a second, I will reposition the camera. Okay, here I am looking straight up under the dash on the passenger side, and there are I believe 3 hex head screws. These are 8mm. These have to be pulled, and you also need to disconnect the electrical connector. So I'm just gonna pull those screws, and I think that's all that's holding this in. And there's also this one Phillips head screw right here near the back. So I'm gonna pull that out also. Okay, so here are the 2 motors side by side. Now, I was kind of hoping that the Volvo motor would be a little more of a drop-in unit. But as you can see, the fan cage is much larger and really just does not fit into the Mercedes dash. Also, the motor housings are completely different. So this is going to take a little work. What I need to do is remove the plastic housings from the back and swap them, as well as swap the fan cages. So I'm going to go to that now and just give you the basics of what's involved. Now, on the original Mercedes motor, you need to disconnect the motor itself from the plastic housing. There's a 7mm bolt to do that. You also need to pull off this clip here. You can just kind of knock it off with a flat blade screwdriver and remove this electrical connector. There are some terminals on the other side of this that you can just kind of pull off by hand. I'll show you. So just give me a moment to get this screw out and take this off. So once you have that metal clip off, you can just kind of pull this up and slide it out. And you can see there's just 2 terminals here you can pull straight off, so I'm going to do that. Then once that's done, you can just kind of push the motor out of the housing here. It's not on very tight, but it's very difficult to do with one hand, so I'm just going to put the camera down and pull this straight out. Okay, so here's one Mercedes blower motor without the housing on it. If you give me a moment, I will show you the same procedure on the Volvo blower motor. Okay, so on the Volvo blower motor, there is a T20 star point screw that needs to be removed, as well as these terminals here. Now this is a little different on the Volvo blower motor. It just kind of clips into place, so if you pry up these 2 tabs here on the left and the right, the terminal will slide straight off. And once again, I can't do that with one hand, so I'm just going to pry these 2 tabs up, slide this straight out, remove the screw, and then the motor should come straight out of the housing. Okay, now you can see the 2 motors side by side, and it should be getting more obvious as to why this should work. Now, these are both motors made by Bosch. They have slightly different part numbers. This is the original one from the Mercedes. Let me see if I can show you the part number there. That's 0, 130, 111, 102. A little easier to see it here on the Volvo motor. 0, 130, 111, 134. So these are actually very similar parts, and what I need to do now is swap the 2 cages. And more or less just need to knock the motor off the, knock this shaft out of the fan cage on both of them and just swap them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Should be fairly obvious how to do that on your end, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and then put this all back together. Okay, so I've got the Mercedes motor here, and it's sitting in a paint can just to catch the motor. The paint can, the brim of it, is bracing the plastic fan cage. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to heat up this end here. I mean, this has been pressed together since 1983. That's 33 years. The Volvo blower motor has been pressed together since 1997, so 19 years. So I'm just going to add a little heat and a drop of penetrating oil, and hopefully that'll loosen this up and I can drive the motor out of the fan cage here without damaging anything. Okay, now we have these 2 motors side by side, and as you can see, they really are almost identical. The one with the slightly longer shaft here is the Volvo motor, and the only other difference I'm seeing is that the terminals are slightly different here. Basically, I took this wire off the Mercedes motor, and it fits here in the same place on the Volvo motor, but the terminal on the other side is a little different. You can see there's a female terminal here in the same place on the Mercedes motor. So basically, I'm just going to put together a jumper wire with 2 female ends, and that should allow me to connect this up to the connector in the Mercedes. So right now what I need to do is put the Mercedes fan cage onto this motor. Okay, now this is back together, so I can put the housing back on and mount this in the car. Okay, so from here, assembly is going to be the reverse of disassembly. Like I said, I'm going to be using the housing off the Mercedes motor, which you see right here. And as I said, I have another jumper wire that I made right here with 2 female ends that'll allow me to connect this back up to the motor, and this should go in and work. So give me a moment to put this together. Okay, so as you can see here, you have the Volvo Bosch electric motor with the Mercedes fan cage, Mercedes housing, and Mercedes electrical connector. Because the Bosch electric motor inside here is nearly identical to the one we started with. So if you can't find the original Mercedes motor, this is a good way to go. All I really need to do now is mount this up back in the car. Okay, now here's a little bit of a spoiler. I thought this was going to solve 2 problems with me. The motor I took out of this car was noisy, but also it only seems to work on the low fan speed, and I kind of attributed both to a worn out motor with worn out brushes. Well, I did already test this, and I'm still only getting the low fan speed, which suggests that I've got some kind of a relay, resistor, or electrical switch problem here in the system, which is unrelated to the motor itself. So at least this will solve the issue of this motor being noisy while it's in use. So I'm going to mount this back up now. I see no need to swap the motors back for the Mercedes motor. I think this one is in better shape. But from here I will go into further diagnostics, maybe not on video, and figure out why I'm only getting the low fan speed. So this is Mercedes Diesel Guy. Thanks for watching.